What should you do with a miracle? And I'll tell you what you should do.
You don't have to be wealthy to be kind.
If you force that, you destroy the creativity. You destroy it and it becomes a mistake. But if you really want to get a result, you got to choose something and see it to the end of the path.
Sublime Podcast.
What an opener, right? What an opener, guys. Amazing. Yes, something new today, guys. And I love that. I finally got a chance to interview somebody who I secretly admire. And today I'm proud to actually have my guests on my podcast. But I'm going to start with this question. What is more powerful than a powerful person?
Joshua?
I would say a kind person. Power could be used for all kinds of different things, but still not necessarily benefit anyone. But a person who benefits people, well, that's something that remains after they're gone.
I love it. The answer is power couple. Yeah, like this. So yeah, folks. So today we have
Two powerful people.
Yeah, two powerful people together making power couple.
That's funny.
Yeah. So Monique Zhang,
Yes.
right? So is who is a person of huge heart, person who runs a lot of charities and helps a lot of companies, organizations, and individuals around with her activity. And who is well known, maybe as one of the top producers, if not the top producer, in San Francisco of fashion events. And we also have Josh Bernstein, who almost happened to be a orchestra conductor, and also almost happened to be a software engineer, but he ended up landing in the art industry. And Josh will talk about his inspirations today as well. Awesome. How do you guys feel about being almost, well, we're not live, we're recording this, but how do you guys feel about this kind of format where it's more like a radio?
Well, I think that it's a fantastic opportunity when one get to know each other like a friend. It's more relaxed rather than you really are going to a radio show, but it is kind of like a radio show. I like it because one get to express more freely, and I have you and Josh right next to me that is technical savvy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fun. Yeah, I enjoy this format, particularly because I like the question format where you can interview people. It can bring out things you didn't expect versus simply videotaping and making it more of a visual presentation.
Yeah, but Josh, you are not a stranger in like overall like music production world. Because of your education, because of your inspiration from the orchestra. I wonder if you actually used to be like in any kind of like musical production, like in the band, making your own music.
Actually, yes. One of the most interesting things is the native flute and also the silver flute allowed me to play in a reggae band. And I learned with Gully from the Reggae Cowboys, and he formed a band with me in North Carolina called it was I forgot the name now, but it doesn't matter. So we went out, we played, and I would go into the studio and record a silver flute, native flute, and I got exposure a lot to being in a band. Yeah. So I actually grew up playing in the symphony and the orchestra as a youth, and I went on travel all around the world with the National Youth Orchestra. That was with trombone. And classical music is essentially you play what's expected. You play when the time is to play. But the beauty of playing in a band is you can learn to improvise.
Yeah.
So I became more... I would say I became more dimensional. I had a much more richness in my understanding of music when I entered into learning to improvise. Because I would study jazz. I study how people played this instrument in a setting where you have to make a groove. So our name of our band, I remembered it just now. It's called Living Groove.
A living groove.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Because what we would do is we work all week very hard on different scales and structures. And then when we got to the group performance, when we went to a performance, we would just improvise the whole concert. And we wouldn't know what would happen, but it would be very cool because we'd be spontaneous and respond to each other in the moment.
Yeah, and also it's very, I'll say, bonding kind of activity.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the question for your head is if you stay in touch with the folks you used to play.
Well, I haven't been in touch with Gully for years now after I left North Carolina, but wow, we made a really good connection through music. He's from Jamaica, and in Jamaica there's a lot of gullies, and so he loved to take that name because it's a gully is the space that the water fills, so it could become anything. And it's a very receptive and spiritual name he took.
Yeah.
And he was a very, very well-educated and spiritual person. So he not only taught me the musical skills of improvisation and performing in a band, but he also meditated, and he was a spiritual practitioner. It's very interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I love multicultural influences. I think is what it makes California so strong because of all the people coming from different backgrounds getting together and making something very unique. And
then the creativity is as you said, it's a bonding experience. Yeah. So I found that it's also true here in California when we do fashion and we do charity. We bond with each other more, and our experience when we do the Charitable Causes fashion shows is that the donors actually bond with us even deeper than they would if they're just giving the money. They actually come to our events, and then they experience the giving and the fun of giving.
Yeah.
And we bond with them more.
Yeah, I actually have questions about this specific part to you, Monique, about the way you do events. It's very different. As I learn more of a like Chinese and Eastern culture, it's actually you're getting a lot from this kind of culture, but also you're bringing a lot of your own creativity into this. Yes. So I kind of wanted to kind of start from where you're coming from. So you're coming from an environment where it was difficult to maybe be creative, and you had to manifest yourself, and you had a lot of like naysayers, people who didn't believe in you doing what you're doing, and that it can become like your passion and the purpose of your life. So how it is coming from Taiwan, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because in the 60s and 70s, people believed that, especially from the Orient, a lot of country was it's called developing country.
Yeah.
So the ideas for that is you experience something of efficient from the work. So the practicality when you grow up as a useful human being is where you dictate you to your school later on to be major. That's probably most of the Asian in my generation become something more of engineers, teachers, and nurses. Something that the professional will provide you a safety. I wouldn't say that I'm rebellious, but I really just feel easily bored by a formula that I have to learn in order to be good scorer. That discouraged me very much because you take out of that playfulness of what I can investigate it. So I think that is the probably number one. I don't like the school as much as I like to, discover myself elsewhere. But since we do have to be judged at the school, so that I also learn how to be prepared in a more shorter, efficient way, so I wouldn't be thrown out of the wagon. And so that means being not only score judged, also not able to compete or even come to the United States, because at that time, it's very little opportunity that you can actually come abroad. Visa was not available, and you do have to have a undergraduate degree, which I did. I actually took a very special type of concentration, which is Shakespeare theater, which is for a country that not profoundly good about the English. That kind of degree, I think that it almost defined that there's no job opportunity. I mean, where are you going to find it? And how good that you can be when you're not a native speakers and you learn medieval languages in all languages, English and all that, and the theater play. It almost feels like it's you step into the world of nothing to do with whatever surrounding you. But I think that the reason I think that, I don't want to be only at that time engineers or any of the more defined type of subject to learning for in order to have a career is because I feel ladies should, at least at that time, my connotation, the lady should actually driven by her own charming and beauty and become more sophisticated. So I'm more interested in that. So I spend a lot more times of discover how lady growing up should be and how fun she can be by dressing herself and what kind of decoration available, and then also where they should seek out not just for fun but places that they can be attracted to, and how you deal with a crowd that is maybe they're interested for you not as a marriage material just because you're charming. So I discovered that is something that I would like to do because I feel like that will equally give me a bridge of translating my own element into something that perhaps the Western will find my value.
Speaking of value, I think that maybe there's some value there that you haven't uncovered yet, which is what I've noticed is that you have an incredible cultivation of your craft and your sense. You called it Monique sense. You have really cultivated your sense of couture, of culture, of European ancestry and Asian ancestry, and how they could link, where they could link. And your sense, Monique's sense of fashion and style has really been developed. I mean, it's developed to a point where people recognize it. They really recognize it.
Well, that's the reason I don't want to. I don't want to put a label or a cap when one is discover things or looking into things that you have to be turned right away into skill. I think immersion to understand and also develop a feeling for it's very important. And I think, equally in the art and the fashions and culture, it provides a lot of invisible language and impactful value that it's not something you can just decode it all at once. But in order to have a good taste, something that may not be teachable, and so generation after generation, how does the people even define their own levels of sophistication? That's real interesting. So for me, those are almost a link with the basic of humanity, that where you outreach for those and then who you connected to, which can make you more sophisticated in a more elegant way.
But also your expression of it. There's the cultivation of the sense of creativity and of cultural, artistic expression. But there's also the expression of that sense. And you've done it. And what I really am inspired by is that you've given the effort and time and you've given yourself to it. And then that's allowed other people to feel like this is okay for them to do. In a way, you've given others permission to explore their creativity.
Well, it's
you fostered a lot of artists,
Yes.
haven't you?
Yes. And then, the thing is about, it's really the oscillation. Now, where you're going to balance between your own arbitration, which is you're going to make a decision. At some point, as a designer or creative director, you need to make a decision, and that's very arbitrarily. But at the same time, you're allowing to unfold. You want the people, you want your ideas and thought to be unfold.
That's a so-called really Eastern idea, isn't it?
Yes, and then it has to have a certain kind of, I would think that a certain kind of allowance for yourself to be not practical. Because of practical, you wanted to right away conclude it. And I think the conclusion is probably the most cruel thing that one can do to yourself in the art of creating is that conclusion. So I try to let the people when I wouldn't say foster, but at least I give them opportunity to interact, a chance to be themselves and give them some visual opportunity that I may actually deliver more arbitrarily. Because in the fashion show, I'm not actually necessary to be a designer point of view. I could be a conceptualist. I can be a choreograph point of view. I'm a visual artist. And I also...
operations directing. Making it happening.
Yeah, well, that is more
event producing.
Arbitrarily. But I like to be giving that stage is a growing organic form, and but not losing the boundary of formation. So I think that's where I think people learn to appreciate a beautiful thing, because I think beautiful thing is you have to almost like allow yourself and all the way to models, whoever performs it, a chance to be really becoming them, the idealistic of their own point of view from their imagination. And then from that way, they will try. They will dare to try.
And so also, how would you encourage people who are dealing with impossibles or who have a dream but just never followed it because they felt that it's just not possible and they gave up? Maybe, or they have an inkling, but they're thinking of giving up. Maybe they're on the fence. How would you encourage them in terms of creativity and their dream? It's like a little baby they've been holding to themselves.
Well, I think that's the reason. I think that I always often wanted to be a mentor. And create a mentorship. I think people has went through the journey of experience the difficult or challenges and even some limitations. Will understanding the mentorship mean the mentors give a suggestion, but it's not a sentence. It's not a stone set. It gives them a warmth of a guideline that they can see a potential. Now, it takes time for people become potentially possible for them to grow. So that is take an immense amount of patience and also a trust. A trust is going to change and trust that they have ability to do that.
So, I think it's a wonderful topic, and like mentorship it's so important because sometimes you don't even know where you can get or how to get where you want to be, and as somebody who is either there or somewhere nearby and can teach you, can change your life. So I wonder if you had mentors. Probably you did, and if you're mentoring somebody now.
Well, the thing is I when I was first here in the United States, I have an awakening call. One of my friend that was, he was actually an advisor to a presidential level in the World Bank. He just very bluntly told me that I'm not going anywhere. When I first arrived. Wow. He said, not because you are somewhat educated and somewhat nice looking and somewhat you are not struggling. It's you're not going to make it. And of course that I'm very curious to ask then how am I going to make it? And it's very vague. But what do you mean even by making it? I think what the person tried to tell me is by a traditional forms of training that you become good with it and good at it. It's not necessary you will be able to fully develop your whole potential. So then he come up with these ideas of seeking for mentors and to sign up right away with the mentors in the field that I be more interested, which is fashions and maybe some humanity and sociology or maybe art. And that's what the first came off. And then, of course, that time I don't have ability. I don't know anyone and how I'm going to ask for anyone or know anyone. So there's one thing that came out that was kind of strong, the vehicle, which is a referral letter. Mm-hmm. And someone willing to refer you. Right. So for that point of view, I think I become, throughout the year, I become a lot less selfish, kept all my connection. I always try to introduce people connection because I just think that if I can see the person need it and I can suggest and pair them some potential people that may be helpful for them, it will be a good deed. So I think I wasn't conservative, nor do I try to either. Yes, not possessive and not to try to prevent. Everyone has a certain jealousiness because of comparison, and I think one need to work with that. So I always been very open about to accept that kind of challenge for myself, how willingly I'm willing to help people. Mm-hmm. And that's the number one thing I still ask me every day, that how willingly. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you're willing to help, the smiley face is inside your heart.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think this theme of charitable giving and helping community is what kind of give you a second life. And we'll talk about this a bit later, because I think it's also a very, very sweet story about how you guys met. Mm-hmm. So we'll get to this. But while we're still on the eastern side of you, you started with making bags from jeans. Mm. Like, how did you get this idea?
Well, the thing is a fabric is a fabric. If they sewn together, you can take apart. Mm. And it flattens, it's become a fabric. Mm. So when you have scarce of the fabric or the fabric's already fixed into that shapes, then you want to refashion it, you take apart. So taking apart, I think a lot of, maybe young boy, they will take apart toys, they take apart a lot of different things in order to discover what that is. Mm-hmm. And something with me, if I don't have a purse, but I can get into some kind of pants, then I can make a purse, right? And then, all the thing is I think cool. At that time, the 70s is very strong with the hippies, right? They have this wonderful, wonderful long bag.
And the belt.
And then the way, and the fringe and everything. It just feel like, if you have one of those, you'll feel like you can just go out with a confident. So I was just fiercely making it. I don't need to sleep that much. I just wanted to have that look. And I think that driven are still very strong with me. I wanted to make something happening. I will. And that's how important the beauty to me. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, I think the importance of self-expression, it's a vital part of,
yes.
Especially if you're artistic type. Like, you have to self-express. Mm. And I think what we are forgetting here in the Western world is that it's also a cultural element, and it's a language. It's not just a way to to not get cold, to protect yourself in the harsh environment, but it's also a way to convey messages. And you took it even further, and I think your designs are called wearable art.
Well, that is not necessarily my definition, but it was defined in the history during the late 60s to 80s. it was evolved into a more bohemian stage based on the liberations of people in their heart, facing wars and their ideologies and all that, and then paired with their clothing and based in Berkeley. And so the movement of flower children, so-called the hippies, has influenced a lot of our fashion. And then, and go through the worlds. And so that period of time, historian and the fashion world call it art to wear movement. And the products or the thing that they created to wear is called wearable art. And so it's... For some people, it's kind of a more pure time kind of a definition. Nowadays, I think that people call maybe art in fashion, that kind of thing. But if you talk about wearable art, some people, if they don't know in depth, they will think maybe that's just a tie-dye T-shirt or something. But it actually, it's very... in-depth type of technique that was used, such as hand-woven, such as a hand-dye, not necessarily tie-dye, but hand-dye, very sophisticated hand-dye that learned from Japan, learned from batik, learned from ikat. All those techniques was incorporated because they have free time. They're I wouldn't say there are what do you call it, linger around the street, but they have their free time, so they make a lot of craft and all that. So we see a lot of pieces that would take months and months to make it. That kind of thing. Then I could see that now some of the museums has them. The Young Museum has a good part of it,
right.
And some of the magazines such as Fiber Art, all those are introducing very intricate how the surface design. You incorporate a lot of surface design, that hand painting and all that into it. So it's not necessarily just a tie-dye T-shirt. It become very sophisticated throughout that 15, 20 years. Influenced a lot of people. Yeah.
Did you ever have to choose between like the comfortableness and the wearability of the clothing you're making, or the looks of it? So do you think that
well, that's always I think that the designer, if they so-called designer, has to contemplate. Of course, just to be more showy, it's less of a needed to be structurally interpreted as a daily wear. But I would just think that, just like if you compare to a very good sports person in the swimming world, you not only need to be technical refined, but you also need to be swimmed beautifully, perhaps free of style, once you can profound in your technique. So same thing as a designer. I don't think the designer can attempt it when they are just trying it, but also there's a designer just incredibly talented in terms of their patterning or the originality. And so I would think that, not so much confined into wearable or not wearable, but as long as you can, like the cavemen, they can put their clothes on their body, covers it, you can wear it. But they become very sophisticated patterning.
Yeah. I think we went quite far from the times when we were in caves.
Yes.
Sure. not die from cold, for sure.
Yeah.
But also...
So form and function. Yeah. Now we get to spend a lot more time with...
Function. Yeah, so I guess...
A lot more with
now
form.
we don't have to choose.
Yeah, we have a lot more options.
Yeah.
And then people who dedicate themselves to mastery of the technique can improvise.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the music, or goes back to, say, surface design. I never painted on silk till I met Monique Zhang. And what an incredible thing to experience, to combine music and the brush. To paint with a brush directly onto the silk, and then see it through a pattern, a technique, see it on a woman, and how elegant it can be and flowing. It's quite wonderful.
Yeah, I think you Josh, can talk about interesting maybe even inventions, design ideas, because you not just you paint on silk and satin, but also you make your own brushes. So is there anything like unique about
I mean, just to keep it simple, I think it has to do with inspiring oneself. If you can keep inspiring yourself, you're going to have something exciting to do every day, and you're going to want to get up and go and do it. It's like you imagine it, and then you do it, and then you get that amazing result. Sometimes it's a challenge, but you work through it, and you got something done that day, and you can look back on it and appreciate it or move to the next inspiration, whatever you want.
And one thing I discovered is for Josh, because, it's like if you're going to paint on silk, you feel like you need to have a brush. But it surprised me. He used all different kind of tools. Sometimes he uses, like almost like you can paint the wall, the sponges and all that. I think he discovered how to manipulate the angle and the time, and then with the water. So he can almost imagine, like what is going to manifest using that tool. So I think that's very inventive because, it wasn't that much just using Eastern brushes, and it's very elegant. It's actually quite
messy, actually, because you're dealing with gravity,
right?
And you're dealing with a limited surface. I mean, in the sense of what the surface, how fast it will soak up the
timing.
ink, and how absorption rate, and also the impact of the color or the gradation. So you have to kind of play with it till you get what you want, or able to play with it if it's not what you want, but allowing it to become. We talked about allowing. It's a very important aspect of creativity. It wasn't what you expected, but if you force that, you destroy the creativity. You destroy it, and it becomes a mistake. But if you allow it to be, then it could turn into something unexpectedly beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's an interesting theme. Like, would you say that any kind of like forced labor kills creativity? So if you just,
I wouldn't say kills, but what happens is you can see the individual's mind in that, because they put themselves first above the unfolding of this thing, and so you see it's forced, and it's a mistake. And it seems like a mistake because we all can recognize what looks like a total mistake. It's because it went over and over and over in it, and it was like you just couldn't let go. So I guess the real mistake is really just the force, and you're inserting your own force without. It's disharmonious. Now that can also be a kind of creativity. In its own. So there's no wrong or right in that sense. We're not looking for the right way and the wrong way. In fact, we're trying to pull away from that so we can allow something to come through. And by doing that, it will actually, you will develop. So let's draw a similarity to music. So if you have the fear that there's only a few melodies and you try to hold them to yourself, that fear actually will start to cut off the fact that melodies are always there. If you're listening, you'll always get a new melody coming. So it's actually generosity of spirit that allows more and more creativity. It's the opposite of what we think. By trying to possess the art and own it and insert your force and yourself into it, you actually crush, to a degree, you crush the flow. So you get in the way. I think it's more like getting in the way than destroy, but... And then you lose your inspiration, and it becomes all more about what you don't have and what's not there. So less positive. So we try to be positive and look at what we have in a positive frame of mind, and then the music that comes out, we're not judging it. It has a chance to breathe. We can relax more. Just enough pressure, not too much pressure. That's what makes the string sing. You start to press too hard, or you don't play with effort,
it doesn't sound.
Then you don't have a sound.
Good.
So this is the metaphor for being a creative. And then with improvisational music, you must really develop a lot of skill. It's like you can't just go there and improvise and then it's going to sound great. So what you do is you develop your skill and you make that a practice. But then when you get there to the improvisation, you actually learn to improvise by doing it often. And everything starts to sound pretty darn good because you've practiced those scales, you know those modes, and you can hear them. Mm-hmm. So it's familiarity in a way. And then the only thing you want to avoid as an artist, I would say, is the trap of familiarity. Mm-hmm. So it's like at the beginning you need it, and then you need to let it go so that you can truly go places you've never been before.
So you don't repeat yourself.
Yeah. You don't want to get to the point where you're just hiding in familiarity. Mm-hmm. Artists hiding in what they do and doing the same thing over and over. Not. Where's the breath? Where's the inspiration? It's become stopped. It's blocked. So you got to allow for some new things along the way. You don't have to change the complete genre and start playing a different instrument or whatever, but it can help if you try it. You can always switch lanes to get feedback. Mm-hmm. And then come back to what's familiar and then add that in. It's really amazing because you think of it like a flow. I guess that's what I've been thinking about it as. In the beginning, I worried about getting it right. I played in the symphony, and you have to play what's on the page, and you have to play together what's on the page. That's even harder. But then I got into jazz, or I got into spending time with the piano alone by myself with no one around, no one to perform for. And I would get into a space where I was just nourished by the sounds coming out. And I enjoyed them. And the more I enjoyed them, others liked it too. So I become really able to share something special. So yeah, that's, I think, the way all the arts could be, all the life could be. We can be nourished by it. And then we want to share that once we get to that point with others.
Yeah, and I wish, in our world, it would have been easier to make revenue and to have enough income
for the practicality to support the creativity.
To support creativity, because
rather than you are practical, so you stifle and stop everything just so you can survive. And survivalism is not that. I mean, actually, it's very creative in one sense. Mm-hmm. When you're just trying to survive, you actually have to pull out all the stops and find out what to do.
Look at nature, how creative nature is.
It's very creative.
The DNA of it is survivalism. Right?
But you can't relax to the point where you can open up and experience the cathartic, those cathartic experience, because you're just trying to do something so small. It's like a giant spirit forced into a tiny little dot, and it's just too much. So I encourage people to try to get away from the survival idea and use those skills to support the creative arts. Maybe help a friend who's an artist, and that might inspire you, that you could do something like that. Everyone has their own medicine. My flute teacher said to me, he said, mine's making flutes. That's what his was, to make the flute. And right away, I knew mine is to play them. I knew I wasn't much of a craftsman for making a flute, because the flute, it flew off the lathe and hit me in the face. So I broke the flute that I was making. Wow. Well, because I chose the hardest wood. You don't make these flutes out of mahogany. So there I had the flute spinning really fast, and it's mahogany. So I'm trying to use this lathe and carve it, but it's chipping rather than shaping. So if you have a cedar or you have a redwood, it'll be much easier. Yeah. So that's what happened. My first flute, I tried to do a mahogany, and then the thing hit me, and it really hurt. But then I learned eventually how to make a flute, but I was more of a player. For him, he's a medicine man who made flutes, and that shaped how people would breathe, because he would make that flute different than other people. He made it so you'd have to breathe a certain way, which would right away calm you down. You take a deeper, slower breath the way he made his flute.
Do you take pauses between breaths?
Yeah, you can. But what's interesting is a lot of the flute makers of native flute at the time that he was making them, Hawk Littlejohn was my teacher of flutes. You can look him up. He's very famous. He's already passed on. But his flutes go for thousands and thousands of dollars nowadays as a collector. But anyway, he made his flutes differently than others. Others' flutes were more smaller bore, so you'd have to force the air through really fast. So that would put you more in anxious state, actually. And the purpose of the flute, everyone kind of knows, is to calm down. So he made his flutes more like the eastern forests in North Carolina, where everything's calm and it's very old. Those are very old woods, not like the plains, very young mountains. So you play his flute and you calm down a lot. So he's a medicine man that way. He did his thing. And he told me, everyone has the medicine. You can do it with making cars. You can do it with fixing things, or you can do it with being a florist or a clothing designer or a painter or anything. What you're inspired to do actually is going to bring many people joy.
Beautiful. Yeah. But it's very true that a specific type of breathing is capable of calming down your nervous system.
Yes.
Like it's a known research, and there are techniques, like again in the Buddhism as well, and in a lot of like Eastern cultures and Eastern medicine. If you breathe in a specific way, you can feel better about whatever situation you are in.
Yeah, the first thing to do is called mindfulness. So that means becoming aware of, so like, let's say you get into a situation and all of a sudden your breath any kind of situation where you're anxious, right away you'll notice one thing about your breath. It'll be shorter. It won't be deep. It'll be a little bit higher pitch. It'll be coming from up higher in your chest.
Yeah.
So the mindfulness is created by counting the breath. We practice by sitting and counting the breath, and we develop mindfulness. That's one aspect. So then you're aware, wow, I'm really not comfortable. Okay, that's good. Why am I not comfortable? Maybe another question. Or just using a method now to get comfortable. And that method would be to elongate the breath. So that's why I said those flutes were cool that Hawk made, because when you play that one, it made your breath very long. You could last longer.
It is. And additional effect comes from your like pushing through, because the flute has some resistance naturally.
Yes, all instruments have some.
And you have to contract muscles, breathing muscles.
That's right.
To push the air out, and that relaxes your nerves in this area.
Totally. Yeah, because if you engage, then when you let go, you're going to have a chance to let go of the tension too.
Yeah, so I guess people who play flute are the calmest people in the world.
Well, no, I have a silver flute here, and then you can play it really fast and loud, and you can be very hyper. So it all depends. Like for example, a trumpet player.
A lot and faster than you can metabolize.
It all depends. Like for example, a trumpet player, you would think they're going to be the most tense people because they got to push all that air through the tiny little thing. But they get a way to compensate. And some of the best trumpet players, like the jazz players, for example, Satchmo is Louis Armstrong. So Louis Armstrong, the way he played the trumpet, it sounded so calming. It's not like the intensity of the symphony player that might be going harshly pushing the air through fast. It can be very peaceful. So it all depends. But yeah, you would probably want to choose a little bit more open space to blow through first if you're going to play an instrument before you go to the high intensity impact one.
Beautiful. I want to switch topics a bit and ask you this question. So are you a Buddhist yourself now? Like, would you call yourself a Buddhist?
Oh, well, I think that's about the only thing I would call myself. And even calling myself a Buddhist is a little bit weird because that the purpose of the learning the Buddhism is to let go of a thing and being a thing. It doesn't mean that you don't acknowledge form, but we're letting go of the attachment to form. So I don't always call myself a Buddhist, but if I was going to call myself anything, it would be Buddhist.
So how did you get exposed to this?
So I was very young when I had the question and when I had an experience that was kind of spiritual. I was 6 or 7 years old, and there was this massive hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. And after it was subsiding, I went to visit a relative there, and they took me to a friend's house. And that person had a son, and that son was like this magic little boy. I mean, I never encountered anybody so loving and open. And so he showed me that you could move your hands to music like the conductor does. And so I tried it. And then we were listening to Mozart and Beethoven. And all of a sudden, when I was doing this to the music, I felt something, like this energy coming through me. And right away, I thought, this is what I want to feel. It was so wonderful. Like from tightness and anxiety to this joy. And I mean, I didn't know how to describe it. It was a spiritual experience. So from there, I kind of got a signal that music, I got to do music. Okay, so I ended up following music for many years and got lucky in playing the trombone. Well, the trombone is this thing very big and vibrating, so you're going to get a lot of sensations. But truly, the most electrified was when I would raise my hands and move them just like the conductor and imagine an orchestra in front of me. I would just start to feel electric. So anytime I'd get sick, I'd put on Beethoven's music. I mean, like in the winter, I almost always had pneumonia. I don't know why. I just was like a sickly kid. And I would start to do the conducting. And right away, I would get better. I would get over the sickness. So yeah, I definitely was connected with something there. And it was later in life that when I had a spiritual question, due to some difficult experiences. When I had a spiritual question, I went to seek through the music. I went to these different religious organizations. So I went to a church and I sang the Psalms. I went to the Catholic Church and I sang in that. And I went to the Hindu and I chanted in that. And I went to the Muslim and I chanted the Quran. And it was through all this music and sound and chanting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I met a yoga teacher who was a Sufi, and he did the Sufi practice. And this was very wonderful because I learned that, it's like a bouncing ball. If you follow your teacher, then you can kind of get better. So I went with him every day to his house and chanted, and for several years. And through the chanting, he introduced me to the chants of Buddhists. And that's where he said one day, well, it's kind of like a buffet for you, isn't it? You're going here, going there, you're having all the fun. But if you really want to get a result, you got to choose something and see it to the end of the path. So I said, okay, that sounds cool. I love the Buddhist chanting. I love the Buddhist philosophy. It actually makes sense to me. You're kind of like have to become your own like psychologist and understand your own mind, and it just seemed to make the most sense. You could change your own life based on your understanding and your karma to some degree. And so I decided I want to be a Buddhist. And then all these things started happening. And right away I started like getting more and more of these electrical feeling, like connected feeling to something bigger than me. That's the spirituality, I guess. We feel very... in my experience, when I'm shut down, I just feel very individualistic and like this stone cold, And then when I'm connected to this spiritual, universal pathway, then it's warmth and electricity and emotions that are a little bit more generous, kinder.
Interesting pattern I see. So yeah, I understand why you guys are the power couple because the way you operate off of each other, this is fascinating. So yeah, let me ask this question. So I'm going to make a bridge this way. So
sure.
Monique, you talked about your unfortunate accident that kind of gave you a second chance at life. And Josh came in at an interesting moment and kind of helped you through this journey. So I wonder if you don't mind sharing your recovery and how it was a very like low point in your life, and you didn't know if you're going to even walk again, I guess.
Yes.
Right, and then Josh was able to put you back on your feet, and now look at you. A lot to learn from.
Yes, I was called 3 times. First time, this is also related to Buddhism. The first time, remember that I have a degree in Western literature, especially the Shakespearean languages. The teacher is related to Tibetan Buddhism. Of course, that was a very remote idea. They got married in the ceremony of that. So I witnessed the powers of very exotic kind of spirit, kind of a feeling. Also, back to a few years when I was healthy, I also saw a TV interview, which is a monastic venerables of the temples in the San Francisco area. At that time, I didn't know who she was or where she's from, but I was very drawn to her immense of a kindness of expression and also very lightness of her humorous nature. I feel like, if I can learn from this person, even that time she was wearing monastic clothes, I just feel like this person, I need to learn from her. I just have that. That's the second time. Now, the third time is a hard lesson. Everything you do, when you do so intensely, inevitably probably has an injury. So I fell off at hard way and fractured my spine. That was almost like a defining moment that my life almost finished because you can feel it. Because not only you're not moving, but you also have to circle around between the 30 different kind of pain and the degree that they have to evaluate you. So whatever that is went on for many years of a struggle, and it really, when people are in the suffering stage, it absorbs your whole life. You almost don't know if it's impossible for you to live on or not, but you just kind of struggle along with it. So I think that I learned, the number one thing I learned from that particularly suffering is because how much you can hold it. Because everyone tried to, like for me, there's a self-pride because I was successful, I was doing tremendous well, so you want to cover it. You don't want other people to know because then it's a shameful thing because it means your career is over, and as a woman, you can't even walk and all that. So that was I think the first thing was a kind of awakening call about how I'm going to actually deal with myself in daily life. So that was the first question when I encountered Joshua. I was able to, I guess he was relaxed enough. I'm able to convey these ideas, ask him whether I think I'm qualified to become a nun.
Do you remember the day? Like what were you guys doing?
It was in the museum that Joshua was working at opening, and so I was just want to ask because I think he lightly mentioned about his association with the temples and stuff like that. So I want to see if it's potential because the question about whether I can sustain myself in daily life, it's really questionable because I can't concentrate when we have a conversation because the suffering was so strong. It take out all your focuses. Second is your when people are in the suffering, they moan. They moan. It's almost like you minutes by minute and second by second, you don't know how to deal with yourself. That state. That is, so I not only experienced the so-called clinical depression, but also has experienced all different stages of impossible. You can't sleep, you can't sit, you can't lay. Everything about it, it's impossible. So I think that is something that I feel like, I wouldn't say self-destructive, but I was wondering why it happened to me, that kind of thing. So there's a self-pity, to cover myself and everything.
Well, and then there's also you're a public figure who's very accomplished in the Bay Area, and you didn't want people to see the side of you that might upset them or hurt them or make them think different of you.
Yeah, because I have
you had to hold it back, and that was also causing you more pain. And when I saw that, I really wanted to do something because, it's just, I know the pain. I knew I didn't have a spinal injury myself, but I felt the pain that it could be. And I've definitely dealt with my own depression, and I've had support. I've had a lot of mentors and support of how to deal with that. And I have a family who's in medicine.
Josh's family is all in the medical. And the first relief I have is really knowing and willing to beg for mercy. That is the number one thing that has changed my fate. I don't think I'm such a smiley, open person before. You kind of got your thing down, you got your formula down, you got your career down, you got your own reputation, everything. You are commanding, and so from that you become a lot more selective, I guess. So I think that the biggest lesson it taught me is because of this injury, it gave me not only renewal of life, but it's gave me a lightness. How do I deal with life when I have a second chance?
Right.
Even at that time, she was already, even though she had a cane, she was already doing charity work. She had already raised money for the Chinese hospital, and the Chinese hospital, and On Lock.
Well, that's the
and
only
other
way
groups.
that when you want to cover your miserable thing, you keep in doing that, because what else you can do, right? So that is one of the things is when it's so.
So, of course, right away, I asked you to do something for the museum that I was working with. We're launching a new museum in San Francisco that had the Buddha Master's painting and many wonderful artworks. And the Buddha Master was recognized as a Royal Fellow, the first in 200 years, of the Royal Academy of Art. And so not only was Buddha Master the master of Buddhism and recognized as a Buddha, but also in the worldly was recognized as an extremely accomplished artist. So some of the artwork sold for millions of dollars. So we had a museum, and I was put honorary board member. And due to my experiences working with art organization and music, and also marketing and computers, they found that I could be useful part of the launching team. And of course, when I met Monique, that was the very first thing I thought of was, this person really can bring people to the museum. She's really got a great way of presenting herself. So I want to get to her. And it wasn't until she told me about her injury that I really thought, well, we can do this. This is not something we can't handle. We can handle this together.
Josh was very...
together we can make it.
Super kind to offer me a help. And I was surprised that people will offer me help. So for me, that help is how you begin to help people. When they're already kind of in the whirlpools of disappearing from societies and all that, and then they're so weak and everything. But he offered me a immensely shortcut help, which is a lot of people, I think, in the depressed stage, you never know where's the thread to unknot this huge amount of mess.
And I think in some ways you have to go through it to be able to help others.
So I understand. So when I see people, you cannot judge people how miserable they are just by the look of it. But I really understand when people I have people a few days, come here, cry with me. I feel that people, human being, they have a release of suffering very good. You're offering them not only a comfort, but a concrete solution. They may able to stop that one steps to change your life. And then you go with them to change it up.
And the abbess who you saw on that radio show, that podcast, YouTube for that matter, ends up being the abbess of the temple that I go to. So she actually got to meet with the abbess who she saw 10 years earlier. And she got to ask questions and receive support and make it through, really.
Yeah, so that's and then for numbers of years, I have not able to make one single decision. That is how difficult that is, because it took out everything. That's the reason I think that when people are in the stage and they become seriously ill, there's a tremendous they need a tremendous kindness to wrap around them, because they can't see through clearly. Know that they have strength to carry through.
So cut to the chase. My master was recognized by thousands of holy beings as a Buddha, the ancient Buddha, Sambhogakaya, Namo Dorje Buddha. So my master's name is His Holiness Dorje Buddha III. Namo His Holiness Dorje Buddha III. And several items were given to the abbess of Huazangsu. And one of them was when she was part of a ceremony, and that ceremony was a miracle. It's called the food of the Buddhas. It's called Nectar. And human beings can't really take the nectar directly. And it comes in all kinds of colors and forms. But when the ceremony is performed and is successful, then the nectar will be in a bowl, and they can make pills from it. So the abbess was the disciple, as I'm also a disciple, of Namo His Holiness Dorje Chung Buddha III, who conducted and beseeched the Buddhas to bestow the nectar. And the nectar, of course, is a treasure to the people of this world, if they can even encounter it. So the abbess actually had several pills, and I was about to go on a journey, and it could be dangerous. So she gave me one pill, and I kept it with me around my neck, and I kept it with me for a long time. I didn't really want to use it, but I kept it with me in case I needed it so I could survive. And it's said that if you take this, you'll have a second chance, basically.
Wow.
Guess what? Who had it? Me.
What a story. So the only pill you had, you shared with Monique.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you why.
You took it.
I'm ashamed to say that I never knew that giving is better than taking. But I certainly learned it. It's so much better.
Story, guys.
It's so much better when you can give something that's a treasure of your own to another person. But at that time, I didn't know. I did, when I was overseas, I did witness someone give a pill of nectar to someone. And I saw that person recover from a stroke. Mm-hmm. And they changed so much between when they received the pill and what I had seen in the hospital room that I knew the power of it. I knew the power of it was true. And I had no doubts. So I kept this with me. And unfortunately, I didn't lose it to customs or anything. And one day, after, Monique knew me better, and she'd gone to several assemblies and ceremonies and gone to the temple, I was able to give it to her. And when she took it, she actually received it and felt the blessing of it. So it was like a day of no pain the next day. And then what happened next?
I would
recovered.
say that, the miracle, I think, for a lot of people, it may be envy that some people are more lucky than the other. But I think that, this whole universe is abundance of resources. Everyone, they open themselves up, can be very fortunate. They're fortunate to encounter opportunity, the people care for them, their bridges and everything. So not only we have to keep hopeful, but we just have to be genuinely available. I think that's genuinely available. And I think that, that touches many people's heart, including mine. Of course, not, the recovery took 10 years.
10 years.
10
yes.
years. 10 years. So,
And she had one bit of the spine indented in, and also, so the vertebrae had a fracture, but also there were areas of the disc that was crushed. So it took a lot. And what happens is what I understand is that when there's a blockage like that, then the spinal fluid can't flow. And when the spinal fluid is blocked, then you will have some kinds of different mental problems arise. Either you'll see or feel things that aren't there, or you'll have phobias or fears, or you'll feel imbalanced physically. So it will take time, but she has such courage. She just pushed through no matter what. And again, I was taught that the more you volunteer, the more you know you have to give. And the more you know what you have to give, the more better you'll feel. So by helping others, you can pull out of yourself really quickly.
that's so true. And then the only thing that I also want to add to it is I think Joshua has the ability to deal with a lot of changing, difficult and condition, because he worked with a senior. He see people. He sent people upon their departure from the world.
Yeah.
He witnesses how to work with the people. He was from a medical place. He worked with special need at a public school. He's able to deal with a lot of variables. I think that is something that I think I have the good fortune to, because when people are recovered, there's all different kind of symptoms, irregularities. Sometimes this society is only like, okay, only the perfect people, only the most beautiful people, only the most fitted figure. Everything else is kind of pushing the side.
Especially if you're in the styling field, you'll experience a lot of those things.
You age, you know more. Those values different.
Makeup and hair.
So I think that he has a huge tolerance of deal with the difficult.
Yeah.
From little kids to seniors, and I think that was my fortune too, because he almost like is my therapist. He's my nurse, kind of a thing.
No, don't say that. But we're growing together. That's all that is.
But truly,
and no, I can never take credit for that.
I don't know what's my.
I have to tell the public about Buddha Master because of the teaching of Buddha Master being so clear, succinct, and also part like exactly Shakyamuni Buddha's teaching, but more clear so that we can understand. So that now, presently, if we listen to that teaching, we can put it into our life and live the teaching. We can transform. And that, Namo Disensha Dorje Changpo, the Buddha has blessed us all. Now he has entered Parinirvana, and he has entered the Sambo Gakaya heaven. So you can't visit with Buddha directly the way it was before. But there's still the recordings. There's still people who have encountered Buddha, and there's still disciples that will help you. Just look for them. In San Francisco, we have the Huazhang Si Temple. And Monique has gone. She went to do a fish release, and that day there was no pain. She's brought other people and cared about them. So she's changed her mind, her life. It's her own determination and will. For me, I owe everything to the Buddha Master because all the accomplishment that I've been able to enjoy has been by learning those teachings and putting them into practice. And Buddha Master has been very patient with me because I'm a human being who makes a lot of mistakes and has a lot to learn. So that's how I feel. I'm just want to learn with you, and we're learning together. So yeah, I'm not anyone's leader or caretaker. And I've been blessed to know you, Monique. Blessed to know you.
You're so kind.
Beautiful, beautiful. Does anyone know what this nectar is like, or is it so powerful because of the ritual component of it, or is it some chemicals?
No. This is not chemicals from this world. This is not from this world. So,
okay,
it's from the Buddha land. So your consciousness can perceive it, see it. If you're lucky, you can see it. But there are videos. You can watch it on the video up here, from light, from nothing, into a bowl that's covered. So it's not, it can pass through walls, it can pass through things. And then, you see the nectar's there. It's there. If you drink it or taste it, you will taste something. But I mean, most of us cannot take the pure nectar, so they make a pill. So if you ever have the nectar pill, the true nectar pill of Buddhism, only from this kind of very special ceremony, not just like we're not talking about the pills that are mixed in mantras or chanted over them. Okay, we're talking about something comes from nowhere into a bowl. And it's got colors like white, and it looks, there are pictures of this you can find online, true Buddha nectar. It can be red, it can be green, it can be white, it can be different textures. It can have little sharira in it, fragments, and then they can just disappear. It can be look like liquid or it can be solid.
Sorry.
But it's not the material that we would understand.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then what it does is, they all have different effects. I don't know all of them, but the one that I focused on was called the long life nectar of Amitabha Buddha, because everyone wants to live so long.
That was what I took.
So she had one of those nectar pills. If you have the real long life nectar, the pure version of it, not mixed with any dough or anything, then you could live to 150 or even longer. Very healthy, very young. But like any injury, right away you take that pill and boom. And there are many, many, many cases. Many. It's not just Monique. There's a book called Namo His Holiness Dorje Chang Buddha III. In the book, there's disciples who have explained their situation, and I know some of those disciples. They told the truth. I mean, people doubt is people's doubt. That's their own doubt. They told the truth of what can happen with this, with actually true Buddha Dharma. And when people encounter it, they tend to have miracles. I've had many miracles, but I mean, I've experienced and seen miracles. And Monique is one of them. She had a spinal injury. She had a mental state that she couldn't get out of, and she couldn't carry more than 20 pounds. Now she can carry 50 to 80 pounds every day. And she's just a force to reckon with.
Is it why you got all the gym equipment in this store? But by the way,
Wow, that's a good.
That's a good segue.
Trying to catch up to her.
Okay, no. Actually, Buddha Master can lift unbelievable amounts of weight. That's one of the miracles that I witnessed. Mm-hmm. So, let's just talk about Buddha Master's disciple, Nick Best. Nick Best is a strongman who's won World's Strongest Man before. But aside from that, Nick Best was also had to lift 1,000 and more pounds to enter a Buddha hall. And if he couldn't lift it, he wouldn't be considered acceptable to ask the question he wanted to ask the Buddha Master. And essentially, he's recognized as a bodhisattva, which is on a stage to becoming a Buddha, a very high stage. A bodhisattva is here. They come to this world just to help us to become Buddhas. Mm. That's what anyone that wants to be a Buddhist, they can help you. And even a non-Buddhist, they can help people. That's what they do. They help people. And so Nick Best lifted the 1,000-something pounds, and I heard the crash of it because I was able to be there. And that day, I received a special empowerment, which I think I can say, with Monique, and it made me want to learn to lift weights. After that, I started to lift weights. My health was horrible. I was getting fat and not strong, and all of a sudden, within a year, I started to get a teacher and lift weights. And now I'm lifting like 200 pounds and 300 pound weights.
Nice job. Yeah.
Never happened before. But anyway, that's why I have the weights, to make myself spiritually stronger and also to help other people when in need. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love it. I want to cover the Catwalk of charitable causes. Yeah,
Catwalk for charitable causes.
I want to cover the activity of this organization.
Sure.
Because
that's the thing. After healing and getting a new second chance, what you gonna do with your life? Yeah. What should you do with a miracle?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what you should do. Very simply, give back, because. Shit, excuse me, you got a chance to live. Why not give something back? Mm-hmm. And so I asked Monique, what's your dream? What's your dream? And she said, well, I want to start some kind of foundation, something that could help designers and also help other people. I want to get the money together to be able to create something for others. And wow, we started to do these fashion shows and raise money, but we didn't have a 501c3. We didn't have the structure. I tried, but it's just like, it's really hard.
It is. You need somebody who knows what they're doing. So I guess this is why you partner up with Fiona, right?
Well, that's such an interesting thing. I think Monique can talk about it. It's so crazy, but she happened to come to our life and really make a difference.
Well, it's during the COVID, when everyone has so phobias about reaching others and stay home, stay in the neighborhood. Fiona and I has a different encounter. As some 20 years ago, one of her network PR has approached me that to design a very special dress for her, and hinted that I should feel honored to serve her, and serve her means somewhat free. And I kind of like alerted by these ideas because I thought, well, everyone wants something can directly contact me.
Yeah.
Especially I have a very beautiful salons and atelier in downtown San Francisco. Just come right over. But, the thing is, it struck me as this interesting thing is like, how come I didn't recognize this incredible Fiona that she going to become someone that beyond your imagination. They're talking about 20, 25 years ago. And I say, oh, okay, but, do I need to put one of my designs on someone just potentially that is significant enough so they will remember me or making that PR move? I was a little bit doubtful about that move because I don't need it. But whatever that is, I still did it because that person's my friend that approached me. Okay. And guess what? Fiona has kept that dress, and year after years, it was very fitted dress, and she has never lose any or gain any 1 inch or half centimeter of it. She still wears
and that dress looks new. I mean, it's really beautiful.
She kept it in the pristine condition. I have surprised because usually silk will rot away by the natural condition, especially if it's so intricate and bordery and cutout design, whatever that is. So during this the COVID period of time, everyone, including me, were making all this creative masks to sell. That's the designer supposed to make all the masks.
Yeah.
So
and lots of people wanted a mask, a unique one for a party.
Right. So then one of Fiona's friends happened to be stop by and fiercely pick up a few and asked me if I know Fiona because she's about to see her. I say, I kind of know her, but I kind of stay a distance from her because I have...
Well, you said you don't know why we haven't gotten together yet. That's one thing.
Well, that's true, but
I just didn't know.
But also, I have my so-called, the pride, and then I don't know the reason why I need a political person to be around me, whatever that is. But anyway, so then Josh say, well, maybe you should look at it because you have been doing fashion show for so many years, this and that. Maybe she'll give you a new ideas, a new forces, whatever. So I said, okay, well, I'll go meet, and so. So we met, and I was very directly asked her for help because I just don't want to wait another 20 years after
there you go.
And she was so candid. She said, can do, will do, and happy to do it.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Can do, will do,
I don't know
happy
her.
to do it.
Period. We don't have
You asked her to help you with
financial, charitable, financial.
With the organization of fashion shows.
I need an underwriter.
She had been
Every
doing
show
fashion shows.
we need to have
for charity
enough of the operation besides whatever we need to do. So she was very, very kind. I mean, we and I think the reason she took on...
she became our honorary event chair. So that meant that she would bring people and also bring donors and also be part of it. And that's very helpful.
But only things I think that also the make different is she is someone that I highly regard as a very open human being. She want to experience that. And the way she experienced it is she loved fashion, by the way. And she loved the changing, beautification, whatever that is. And after our Fantasia, right after the COVID, she told me, it wouldn't be a bad idea to form a nonprofit in a more organized way, because then we will attract more donor for the mission, and also I will be able to maybe do a little spokesperson for you in the subtle way, because if I experience something very good and it's for other people, not for only you, you're only a bridge. Yeah. I like that about you because you are helping many. So
and don't forget, she came up with the name too.
Right. So she, of course, as I say.
Yeah, that's a cool name. I agree with you.
Yeah. No. Well, a lot of Chinese like to have the CCC. That's like Chinese Culture Center, CCC. There's a lot of a C there. Whatever that is, she actually helped and as a pro bono, and she was diligently seeded like a tree. So,
Seeding,
she
yeah.
was so hands-on. For the last year or a year before that, she will actually draft up all the MC scripts. She will decorate the table. I think she's someone that not only down to the earth, but she really
takes action.
love experience.
Yeah. She
That
really puts the effort in.
Don't need to
the
put
community.
her own role or her title before her. She likes to be part of that. So I think that's very unusual, and that motivated me to work with her as a creative partner.
And a lot of people who work for her love her for that.
Yeah, creative partners, and we go on. We feel our boundary is not, not as a maybe she's a higher position or whatever. She's very approachable.
Yeah.
Very kind person.
And ready to get things done.
Yeah, and she helped many,
she gave me
not
her
only
phone number.
Yeah. You can
she helped many people
and many
people.
organizations. And she also started like the Farm Bureau in San Francisco,
We've helped
where there are
many
actually city farms going on here.
So we
cool.
all become volunteers of project togethers, or however we see it and everything. She's just one of the person that I admire and I truly enjoy working with.
So that's been the last 2.5 years. And Monique has already raised money for seniors, special needed, and Chinese hospital, and also the Maui fires.
Hospital and the rescues and stuff like that.
Yep, and also the homeless. So there's a lot that's already happened.
Yeah, for Vertical Club as well, for the ramp.
Yeah, and the ramp,
Well, also
handicap
the
ramp at
architecture.
Vertical.
I love the old, the art, the restoration, the preservation, even down to individual will help. Because everyone has their dilemma, and you never know. Maybe you can help them do something, untie their leash, that they will gain the fortune of opportunity. Yeah.
Nice.
So that was we become just like a busy bee helping. That's was actually become my drive. I wasn't. I think that fortunately I don't have a partner that always evaluated how practical I am in terms of making money. So
sometimes I'm
otherwise
into practicality, of course. We do have to be accountants along the way.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's that. And of course, I have many other kind people around me. And make the project by project. We wanted to grow into not only not only just project by project. We want to grow into a more solid base that allowed the people come to San Francisco Bay Area. That will allow the people here to experience something really good, something not only just good design, good mentorships, and good people with style. I think that's the number one thing. It's like the people need to come, and they may not have a place that's ready for it because we don't have the setup, we don't have the building, we don't have anything that is at
But
that
again,
level.
if you focus on what you don't have, then you're not making the steps to get what you want. What you do want.
Well, the thing is, there are examples. We have been traveled to Orient, other places to see the structure, how others are doing that. International Fashion, China Fashion Week. They did a tremendous amount about setting the structures and compound, the buildings, and all the runway was built at international standard. Probably
they had governmental support. That was a big difference. Once you have the government supporting, you definitely have
you can
a building,
also
and you have resources.
Let the people know.
Right?
Yeah, let the people know. I think that's the reason that we become a lot more focused on what we want to unveil.
I think the difficulty as an artist is to be able to believe that it's worthy to support the arts and ask and be willing and able to ask for that support, because you can spend 50 years trying to save it, or you can spend one day with someone who can support it and make it happen. So let's go ahead and ask.
So, to make sure I fully understand. So we do have San Francisco Fashion Incubator on Market Street. My understanding is that it's a place for maybe up-and-coming students or people who are in the industry to kind of get some help, or maybe direction, maybe mentorship, and get a wider platform so they can create and also they can advertise their work. So is it are you trying to do something like this, or do you have very
Much less practical.
Well, it's not
Much more
about,
wild.
it's not, well, I think the school is already have some school, right?
Not the university.
We're talking about the
educational.
facility
Years ago,
that can house
Mercedes-Benz
and
did
can
actually come here and support
give
fashion shows.
a standard for international publishing. We don't have, like a symphony has a symphony hall, and then we have like the opera has an opera, ballet has a ballet. But did you ever have a
All for the
compound
fashion.
for hall for the fashion that is international standard, or who is people experience what even international standard is? And do we able to even have like a Met Gala type of fashionable gala that attract international connection, the resource coming here? Everyone bypass San Francisco because it doesn't have the facility.
But it's always been known as a place to start new ideas. And until now, maybe now it isn't because people have been scared off. But there was a time where people would expect the most unique things to come out of the Bay Area.
I think that, there's a more than a handful of very established designers with either the technology, the art, the design, all incredible calibers of people. We can't invite them. I can't invite them because where are they gonna? I mean, do we have facility for that?
So you mean it's more of a logistics and housing and just
No, it's more like the level.
It's a showcase.
The way to showcase the level.
It's a showcase of facility.
As well as merchandise them.
Yeah,
Because
it's
they
a
want to
showcase
sell their
ability.
things. Yeah.
And it is the it doesn't have a high regard as a standard. It doesn't have a place that people will feel they must attend. Don't have that.
Not like on the East Coast, yeah.
So it's kind of like museum, maybe / exhibition hall.
Well, that is a curate. But just thinking that way, as international standard of a runway, international standard of Fashion Week is not something you just rent a place and start to do that.
Yeah.
There's a whole standard of the trust, lighting, how they turns around and how speed of it turns around, and how does the media around the world get published. All that is need to be a calibers of that the established designer feel comfortable.
Also the
And
attention.
that is where other country has established. And not here, not even in New York Fashion Week. Maybe they're still seasonal. Now
They still have to pop up.
Yeah, they convert a center to do that seasonally. But it is possible. We have so many buildings and all that, and the technology is there, and it could be shared by many. So that has to be pointed out.
So Monique wants to create the fashion performance center of
ignitor to let
California,
people know
San Francisco.
we can change our whole dynamic of how people coming over to us. If we are the West Coast bridge, then people should not bypass us, right?
True.
Yeah.
Sure.
So those are we put together, and
Then it brings value.
Yes, bring a lot of value.
Value
And
to society,
the
value to
pioneers,
tourism. Can be connected with the cruise
the
business.
museum, and everything is so different.
What's the biggest missing component on the way of getting there for you?
The beauty and the standard and technology of housing international designer and the Fashion Week. No, none. And then, of course, the compound will have the technology of, broadcasting, publishing, and all
I think
that.
the first step is to gather gather the right people together to spearhead it, so that it's not just a few people. It's a committee. It's a council that helps.
It is true or not true. I still think that is just take maybe 1 to 3 people.
Oh,
because if you look at that, like how much one can do that or where it's going to be, then all of a sudden it's become very quantitative. You can name
quantitative.
maybe a handful of people in the Bay Area can just like as the magic one. Okay, this is that. Let's do it. And it's not for me. It's for the whole community, the whole bridge of West and East. And then maybe Europe will come too.
That sounds to me like something a state would be also willing to kind of spearhead.
Exactly. That's the reason we need to give them the signal. As I say, it's not for me, it's for everyone.
It's probably something. It's something that if you do, it's going to be so big.
Yeah, because I seize it. For many years, I went to other fashion week. I'm not just going to fashion week just because I want to see the design. I was there to study.
And meet with the chairman and the
to talk about exchange program. We cannot do exchange. They won't come. Because there's no facility.
Nothing to match them.
And the funding is not available.
Well, I mean, I love the idea. I'll be happy to help if there is anything I can do.
Yeah. There can be a multiple track. Usually, multiple track, multiple shows. It's so difficult for us to just do one shows because many challenging happen. Then we'll have to take it down, build up, and it's not international standard.
And it's extremely challenging to always find a more interesting venue all the time and have to keep moving around. What you need is a space that's flexible enough that you can create a new experience in that space each time.
Yes.
True, but also like
an opera house.
In my experience, new venues are coming from. So as you talked about, don't fall for the trap of familiarity. New venues are coming with new opportunities and new ideas.
Sure, but in the idea of creating a center and a focus of an international level, having a performance center that's configurable would be more powerful.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Can be like a theater for like shows.
Yes.
Yeah, the way opera houses have it, you can change the backdrop, you can control the sound,
the stage and make it
movable.
Movable runway and the podium.
So the fun thing about it is several years ago, I kept driving her to Vegas and we started thinking about creating shows. And I was really, for the content, I've been very inspired. I have many ideas for shows. And then for the engineering, they have people over there that have engineered, mostly for musicians. They've engineered the stages that move and spiral and the lighting, Like for Lady Gaga, they did her show. Some of the people over there.
She got the budget.
Yeah, she got the budget. And she has the people that have the ability and mindset to do that kind of engineering, stage engineering. And in the U.S., it's actually quite different than in overseas. Overseas, I think because they have, cheaper manufacturing processes. They can do it.
Also, I think their collaborative effort are stronger. Here is more individualist.
Okay, so for people to join together, then they need to want to be together. That's a big part of it.
Very Western way. And I guess you Josh can talk more to this. But like I can. I kind of learned this, and I think that's what works for me. Though I'm also coming from somewhat Eastern culture, Europe, where it's like there's no that much of individualism. It's more about like think about others, work together with others to get somewhere. You can't do everything alone.
Okay,
you have to kind of build your own groups and teams and tribes. And then you come here and it's like, well, just start it, just do it. Just keep working and make all the money in the world, and bam, you're going to be able to do everything.
There's no way those people made all the money without lots of other people working for them.
Yeah, they build structures.
On that. Yeah,
they build structures under.
I mean, look at Amazon.
Yeah, they build structures.
It's a lot of people working for very little money until the robots started replacing workers. But anyway,
so I do have questions about technology, but before we jump,
we're not against technology.
So. Could you talk a bit more about the lines of different events that Catwalk for Charitable Causes arranges?
We actually have genetically, we have 3 different type of events.
Yeah.
We have called a fashion fundraiser. We also have a donors appreciation gala. And we also have fashion theater. Those are 3
fashion
different.
Theater also relates to film.
Yeah,
fashion film.
Yes,
inspired by film.
3 different kind of type of things. Fantasia is a signature name, Fashion Fantasia signature name for a annual show that we will put together our best resource, a biggest level skill, and donors together with a dedication for a specific project, we all decide together to fund. When I say funding, means we're not just going to do a pro bono fashion week, but we actually raising funds for something that we believe in, that we like to put our effort and money toward. I think that was very unusual for a fashion team, because I don't think I ever heard about a fashion team that is a fundraiser specialist.
Yeah.
I do have to not only discipline myself, but also wrap around all the people knowing how to and kind enough want to assist that level. So that make our task and our work almost consistent. Though we only do project by project, but still we almost work every day toward that direction to prepare that kind of potential, not only with the production, but also with a check delivered. That is something that our effort has never stopped. So 3 different type of show.
So every event also has a over 100 people that get involved in the production, and so they come in during the event. So they don't work daily on Catwalk for Charitable Causes, but they'll come together.
Yes.
To work on the event.
So Fashion Fantasia, our signature show, which is a combination of a fashion fundraiser plus donors appreciation gala. So those are 2. Then we also have Fashion Mega on the Bay, which your experience, that is almost a talent search show that we brought about a platform for people to come to do their own performance, and we give them a score, or we recruit, discover new talents.
So it's not just the fashion catwalk; it's also fashionable talent.
Yes. So from there, that we run
Iconic
like every
behavior.
6 months, Fantasia, Fashion Mega on the Bay, Fantasia, Fashion Mega on the Bay. Then we'll do 3 to 4 shows that specifically project to help a organization we picked up. All right. So those are the one that forthcoming one is the one that we are funding, what we call the central kitchen, that does 1,000 meals a day for seniors.
Moon Charitable.
Wow. Yes. Wow. That is where we head into. So they already have their own galas and the fundraising. We are part of the forces to make their gala so magical. Right. So I do 3 to 4 of those. Then we also have what we call the fashion theater, which we pair with the movie. We do a production that usually at the gala of a film festival, and which I think you also experienced that. Yes. That was more fashion. It's a theater, fashion theater.
It can have dance, and it can have certainly
3 different type of
fashion.
Things. Yeah.
Choreography, and also
and that actually we're very busy. Right, if you compile that will be a 6 to something 8 of things.
Because outside of that, you also have to run this, and this is, I think, this is the headquarters of your like it's your brainchild, but also it's a dry cleaning.
Yeah, this is our joy. Our joy is to be very not only just basic, but very accessible. I think, like 30 to 50 people come to see me every day, maybe a different purpose. My family had this wonderful cleaner, very in the very kind of artsy or very safe community areas called the Sea Cliff near the museum, Legion of Honor. And this community support a lot of art. I almost like all those people that you can never imagine, they will love to hear all of the things, and it could become our donors or whatever that is. So we have many, many conversations. And of course, I believe cleaner is one of the cycle of fashion. You get the clothes, then perhaps you need to clean it.
Or you rip the clothes.
Plus you need to mend it. Plus you need to refashion it. Plus you need to donate it. whatever that is we're into that nice cycle.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can become more helpful, holistic, and then also custom. My idea for the people, the reason I think I make it a little almost like a Cheers in the bars in an American movie. Everyone come together and chit chat while they're doing some stuff basic. It's because I think that we all have this nice things that we love. Something beautiful. We love something art. And then we like to share or to discover something dreamlike things. So they'll come here and say, oh, you do this, you do that. It doesn't look like a traditional cleaner, whatever that is.
Well, it comes down to are you going to go somewhere just for a transactional relationship? Or are you going to go somewhere to be connected and feel like you have a community? And during the COVID, people really wanted more of a community. And they would just come here. Like there was one day, it was dark out during the middle of the day. It was just like black as night during the middle of the day. And we were still open. And people came to our business.
And they thought it was the end of the day.
That's the end of the world.
What the thing is that, where the God outpost. But we were discovered by the television company in the evening news. Is called a positive survivor. We're on the news. Because I don't think, we should look down upon ourselves, human being, about how certain things we can do or can do. I think that we just have to feel very fortunate to have able to wake up, has a mission or work waiting for us. Right? Like today, you drive hundreds. How many hours and there's so much gears. I can never imagine people would bring their studio. Bring their studio over here.
Look at all the cases I haven't even opened, like the light and so on. And two more cameras I usually set up. Yeah, and thank you. You're very generous with your place and with your time and sharing all this information. I know it's getting late and we need to wrap up. So. And there's two more questions, and then we are going into closing. So one is, I think, very important is you mentioned a donor appreciation kind of event. So where did you learn that? And I think that's what stands out, what makes your event stand out from a lot of other fashion events in the industry, is where people really feel that they are part of it because they have platform and the chance to be there and feel like they contribute.
Well, most people feel very intimidated by fashion galas and shows because they feel, we're so privileged and you're underprivileged or whatever that is. So
or there's a big separation between the audience and the artists in a lot of events, but you never do it that way.
So I wanted to be very inclusive for their experience. And also I think the potentially, if it's not because the people has money, they donate it and they somehow wipe out whatever they has not done or he answers it. I think the answer for charity is you really need to feel the joy from your heart of giving. And I think that joy is not something you're writing a check, but your action has unfolding. And you are not deprived from the opportunity to get to know what you're helping for. And I think that is where I want to provide that experience. Second is, I think people love to dress up. They want to understand how to dress up, to be suitable, to be appreciated, and to share the joy of their beauty. And I think that it's ageless. It's beyond if you're beautiful or not. So we want to share that capacity, how to, I wouldn't say package you, but at least it's an image making for you. I want to deliver that for them.
They're also getting in touch with their humanity.
Yeah.
Because they're part of a community of giving, not just giving separately or transactionally. They're showing up. They even get to walk the runway. They even get to shine. They even get to say who they are. And
that idea is brilliant when you let
it's really fun.
Yeah, pretty much anybody in the audience to get on the podium, and maybe they can even use the dresses that designers put together. This is great.
I think that the encourage of the runway is a very genuine way of becoming, because everyone can walk. You can walk straight, you can walk sideways, you can dance a little bit. So I like to actually put people in surprises, like give them opportunity that they will feel, my goodness, why I have to do
What's
that?
happening? Yeah.
Yeah.
You
But-
did this to me.
Yeah, because if you do it once,
You're not
either
coming to her events.
you're going to do it
hide
many
out.
times, and then you're going to feel,
Come there
wow,
to get
this is a thrill.
connected.
I like to do that. So they can self-discover
Yeah.
something that can put them spotlight onto it. So I think that is something that everyone can experience it, and everyone can try their best to look attractive. You know, no matter you sick, you whatever. But the most important thing for me is you don't have to be wealthy to be kind. And you don't have to be like a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to really make the money. I'm going to do all that. And then later on when I'm free, I have money, then I will do something. But what I want to say is, why don't you experience something of a giving? No matter how much you give.
And in your case, you don't have to have all the money to give the money.
Yes.
You can organize it.
Yes.
Yeah, and also
Organize it. So
You don't have to actually have it in your hands.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yes.
Like it doesn't. Giving can come in so many different
Yes.
Yes.
So many people say,
Yeah.
when I have this, then I'll give. When this, then that. And then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And you're just putting it off, your happiness.
And that's the reason I wanted that happiness of a joyful discovery about
Start
having
now.
a giving heart. Very beginning, even the little youth model, whatever, they can
Yeah.
experience that. Yeah.
The kids. Yeah, we definitely like to have the kids come and we work with a school of Catwalk and performance for young children. And a lot of times they come and walk the runway
Yes. Very nice.
or they compete. We have competitions.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, last question, and then we are closing. So, what do you think the future of fashion? How does it look like for you? How do you see the influence of technology, like artificial intelligence, which can create things for you now, which can make things like even work on the fly in real time? There's technology. Meta just released it, I think, a couple days ago, where you can change the dresses on the model as she walks in real time. So do you think that the future of fashion would be more towards technology side, or how do you see the future for?
I mean, definitely curious how Monique thinks, but I just want to say that the downside is all these things you see on YouTube right now where it looks like a picture perfect person, but it doesn't feel like a person. It's created with AI.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of videos like that. And, they might look pretty gorgeous in certain outfits, but I think that's why events like what we're doing are so important, because we're talking about connecting with your own humanity. We don't want to get disconnected from that. We want to use the knowledge of AI without losing our humanity.
I think that, since people has a different levels of functioning, AI going to remain fascinating to a lot of people. But our history, if you look at, through our history, a lot of indigenous culture, their textile, their fashion, remaining inspiring. The AI can actually bring a lot of variation that give designer or people in the art or
Inspiration,
fashion
too.
something that they have not think about. I think that's very, very useful. But as far as the technology concerned, I think that as long as you don't cut the connection of people. People are very social. That as long as you don't cut the connection of social, that will remain still developing. If you isolate the people, though, everyone had a phone, everything, but people definitely see the inadequacy and also the almost like a sickening kind of a thing that you become addicted to your own space, your own technology, everything's on. You don't rely on any relationships as far as part of a interrelationship development anymore. I think that our human is made on the interrelationship more than individuality.
100%.
Yes,
Tribal pictures.
And
Yes.
a lot of the AI today is predictive. So that means it's like a percentage related to what the next word might be coming out of our mouths. But how about the unpredictables contribution?
Yeah, humans are
It's really important
chaotic for sure.
to have that be a creative aspect.
Yeah, so I think AI here is here to stay, but the human contribution, there is nothing like this. So it will not go away. Awesome. how can people find you? How can people contribute? How can people connect with you?
Oh, the website right now with the Catwalk for Charitable Causes, if you search those words right away, the website will pop on.
It's catwalkcharity.org.
And then my name, Monique Zhang, Zhang. You can Google it, you'll all pop up. And my cell phone is very public. So you can Google it and search it. And then it's always on my social media. So however that is listed. So
You can text it.
Yeah, you can text me. This is like that.
Beautiful. And Josh has something for us to blow us away in the very end of it.